As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
What if gold or silver drop in price after I order it?
Well, everything fluctuates with time, but nothing has held up longer and better than gold and silver throughout all the changes that have happened in history. Your first ounce of silver is at spot price, and you get free shipping on any order over $99 at sdbullion.com/RP. Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. You're always interested when we have this returning guest on. He's got a ton of experience in the precious metals markets. He's been a watchdog for the truth for decades. Bill Murphy is the co-founder of GATA.org, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. Bill, thank you for joining us again here on Reluctant Preppers.
Thanks for having me back, Don. Again, and I laugh because, they always say you do something for decades. It has been 2 decades.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
We've been collecting up some submitted questions from viewers specifically for this interview, and I'd love to get us kicked off with this first one from BKBK, who says, Bill, would you prefer a gold standard or untaxed free gold?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, from my standpoint, I would just like a free gold market, one in which the gold cartel, which we call it, I call it, the bullion banks, the central banks, the U.S. government, and so on, continue to interfere with the gold price. And it couldn't have been more apparent the last 2 out of 3 days. It's just mind-boggling, and nobody says a thing. So we just want the government and the bank system to get out of the market, let it trade freely, and let it do what it's supposed to do.
There's a related question from C. Cornelius. He says, why has everyone given up pressing for enforcement of the law regarding J.P. Morgan's shorting of silver?
Well, it's another great question. I mean, they're giving up because no matter what's happened, nothing's ever done. The CFTC doesn't want to do anything. They say they can't find anything, and then you find a J.P. Morgan trader gets convicted, and now he's talking them behind the scenes, and who knows who he's turning on to save his own butt. But it's just so obvious what is occurring in the silver market. I mean, the open interest, and we can get into that if you like, because it's so critical.
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
Well, it's the open interest is which the longs and short on the COMEX. It's 10,000 contracts from an all-time high. Price is below 15. It's pathetic. Normally, open interest on all free commodity markets, when the price gets so low and below the cost of production in many cases, it goes down to nothing. The hedgers get out of the way, the specs lose interest. But here it's berserk, and it's been this way for years now. And it's because of J.P. Morgan doing everything they can to control the gold price. And even if you look, or any of your listeners, look at a gold chart the past 3 weeks and look at a silver chart. It's like they're in 2 different worlds. It's why the gold-silver ratio went up as high as 91 to 1. It's about 90 to 1. It's absurd. It's not as though economies have collapsed all over the world and the stock market's gone to oblivion. It's near all-time highs. It's all because they're petrified of losing control of this market, and one day it's going to be spectacular, but boy, is it aggravating.
And I meant to mention at the beginning that this is Tuesday, June 18th, 2019. That's a context for a lot of what we're saying. So, Bill, just re-hitting that same point you just touched on, you said all-time high open interest. Explain to our viewers what that is specifically measuring.
Well, the open interest is the longs and shorts in the market on the COMEX. And 244,000 was the all-time high set a while ago. When silver went to 50 in 2011, and I've tracked this, it's all, anybody can check it out. The open interest was 135,000 contracts basically all the way up from 15 till the very end when it got near 50. Then it started to explode. In other words, the J.P. Morgan crowd let the price of silver gold. It is my opinion, and I could be wrong on this, they were buying physical gold the entire time, loading the boat, buying it, even though it was against some high prices. And then they went mega short in the paper market and the derivatives market, and went 2 or 3 or 4, 5 times as short in the paper market, even though they had this physical. And they've been using this physical silver all this time to hit the price whenever they want it. Meanwhile, the open interest, instead of being 100 235,000 today is 233,000. So it's all the paper market that they've used to help suppress the price, to aid their colleagues in the gold cartel and so on. They haven't had a losing trade yet.
Okay. Yeah, you guys track a lot of the details of the actual unnatural price actions there at GATA.org. We have a related question about this seemingly unended or perpetual manipulation or suppression. Peter Wilson asks, I bought gold and silver as, quote, insurance against too much currency curation, but also with the hope that eventually the manipulation would end and I might make some profit. If the manipulation never ends and I still have the best insurance against fiat currency devaluation, question is, if manipulation never ends in my lifetime, are there scenarios where I still might realize a gain?
It's going to end. There are signs that it's ending now. The way gold is traded the past 3 weeks, what is going on around the world with interest rates going to zero, sub-zero. He's done a great thing, investment thing, to buy gold and silver. No one's been more frustrated than me. The gold's been in a 6-year base. But it is going to end, and this time I think it's going to explode. And it all matters about one particular thing, and that's the physical gold market. My opinion that this gold cartel we're talking about has been using up the available central bank gold that aid in this effort to suppress the price, and they're finally getting close to hitting the wall. Does it mean it's going to happen tomorrow? No. As I mentioned, on Friday and today, Tuesday, they bombed the market twice for no reason. They bombed gold $15 down from the 1354 area to keep it below 1350. That's their goal. Silver, they wouldn't even let it close above 15. And so when it happens, it's going to end dramatically. In my opinion, it's the physical market will make it impossible when all these other bullish factors which are out there. There's the reasons for gold to explode right now are all there. And when it happens, I think it's going to be spectacular. In my opinion, it's gold that has to go first. That's where the physical tightness is. It's finally kicking in after we've heard about it for a couple of years. Then silver is so cheap and so undervalued. Right now, nobody's caring about securing physical silver. But when gold explodes like this, they're all going to go after cheap silver, and the physical supply will dry up quickly, and whatever J.P. Morgan has left will be gone, and then silver will explode, in my opinion.
This is a thought-provoking series of questions. I don't know if we need to break this apart into several answers, but let's just start here. Guard 5600 asks, who will set the real value of an ounce of gold bullion? Gold buyers have purchased gold with paper-inflated dollars. How will the real value of gold be determined, and will it be a gold-backed dollar? And I'll go on. I'll just lay out the rest, but then we'll come back to it. Do you consider gold-backed cryptocurrencies and blockchain as a solution to ending manipulation of derivative paper markets? So let's start with the first one. Who will set the real value of an ounce of gold bullion?
Well, in reality, it should be done the way it's supposed to be done, is at the PM Fix or the AM Fix in London. Every day, the buyers and sellers get together to determine what the physical price of gold is supposed to be. It's interfered with in the derivatives market, the COMEX and the paper market, by what I call this gold cartel. And they keep messing with the price and forcing things down, and they feed physical supply in the market. What should be done is that is what it should be without interference of these bullion banks and central banks in the market to really ruin the gold barometer, which is they're making it dysfunctional. That's all you need is a free market. It's that simple.
The other questions, there was two more in here. One was, how will the real value of gold be determined? Will it be a gold-backed dollar?
Well, it's difficult to know. I mean, who's going to make the most difference to the gold price? The Chinese, the Russians, the world market? The United States is the one been suppressing the price all these years. I know there's some people that want to talk about it, gold-backed currency and stuff like this. I can't imagine the money and power letting that occur. I think it's going to be done just because of what I've been saying about the physical market drying up, and everybody, all of a sudden, gold is so cheap. It's near all-time highs in other currencies, or at all-time highs in some cases. It's only in the dollar, which is so suppressed, or mostly because it's all about the gold is related. The suppression is all about interest rates, the dollar value of the dollar, impressions, how the U.S. looks in the world markets, and so on. So that's really the name of the game. When it comes to the cryptocurrencies, God bless the people involved in that. That's what gold should be doing. Bitcoin, for example, went from nothing to $19,000 back to 3,000 and change until they announced they were going to take it off the futures market. And then, right, a couple of weeks before, 3 or 4 weeks before, they were going to stop trading in the futures market. It took off back up to 9,000 and change. Once they know that they weren't going to be interfered with anymore.
This is a related question. Last part of the same question is, do you consider gold-backed cryptocurrencies and blockchain as the solution to ending manipulation of derivative paper markets?
Well, so far it hasn't been done a doggone thing except taking interest away from some of the gold and silver, markets. So, and I'm not sophisticated enough to understand how, the cryptocurrency situation is going to play out. But boy, it's made its name, and Facebook's getting involved in it now, and good for the people that were smart enough to get involved with it way back when. And what it's going to do in the future, I'm not the one to talk to on that, but I am very confident that the gold and silver markets are going to explode, and they got a lot of catching up to do to catch up to the cryptos.
This is a related question from Yuli John, who says, please ask Bill how gold and silver are going to break free of price manipulation if the Fed wants to continue to suppress them using their bullion bank proxies. What is the mechanism that will allow precious metals to escape suppression by the Fed?
Well, it goes back to the same answer I'm unfortunately giving you all the time. There's only one thing. It's the physical market. When they try to take it down, it doesn't go there. For example, we'll see what happens because they got a Fed meeting tomorrow, and everyone's waiting to see. And they've attacked it the last 2 out of 3 days. But in the last 3 weeks plus, every time gold's been taken down, it has come back up. And today it closed at a new high on the COMEX for the move. This is very unnatural. And the hope and suggestion here is that the physical market is getting to the tipping point, I call it, when they can't get away with it anymore. And it's that simple. That is the key, because nothing else has mattered. I mentioned the low interest rates, quantitative easing, growing debt, fear about various issues and overseas. Nothing matters except what the gold cartel can get away with. When they can't get away with it anymore, all heck could break loose on the upside. And we ought to have a pretty good idea very soon whether we're at that point now. Mm-hmm. One thing I can say, and it's very obvious, a lot of people are talking about it now, there's a massive base, a 6-year base in gold. And some people use 1350 as a key point. I think it's more like 1375. But when that base is broken, there is so much power built up in it, that's where you're going to get your explosion. And then silver's got a lot of catch up to do.
Speaking of the difference between gold and silver, the next question from Adrian808 is, how high can the gold-silver ratio go? 100 to 1? Higher?
Well, no one knows. This is, at 26-year highs now. I mean, it's ludicrous. And for those of us that have been bullish on silver, I mean, J.P. Morgan has made us very wrong, quite frankly. So I think more likely that the gold-silver ratio is going to collapse once J.P. Morgan loses control of the silver market. It's so cheap. And when gold starts to take off, everyone's going to want to buy silver, and everyone's taking it for granted because it's done nothing for so long. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, it's going to be explosive. And my big number is 21. If it takes out $21 an ounce, look out. I mean, my overall objective still is $100 silver.
Turning to a different market here, DJ A Mix asks, what's keeping Deutsche Bank afloat? How much longer can the U.S. export its inflation with the petrodollar mechanism crumbling?
Well, another good one. I mean, Deutsche Bank's been in trouble for a while now, and it's got a lot of attention in our world. And a lot of people are talking about if it gets below 6, watch out. We always talk about bailouts, and what the exact situation is with Deutsche Bank, I don't know, but they seem to be in big trouble. The stock continues to get worse. We know about the plunge protection team supporting the stock market, and of course the gold cartel suppressing the precious metals. And the central banks are going all out to make this not become a fiasco. The one thing that strikes me, and this could be one of the things that does it for gold and silver in the near future, there hasn't been a black swan or a derivatives problem in so long, the most in memory. And they usually come out of nowhere. And if Deutsche Bank is in as bad a trouble as a lot of people in our camp think they are, that could be the cause. And they going to do everything they can to prevent that from happening. But if it gets too big, you get another Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, and they can't do anything about it. And that's when the fear trade can come back into gold, which we've seen a little bit over the last 3 weeks.
Bill asks, if you have most of your preps with a car and a home paid for, how much in precious metals should you have, and what else should you have? And again, we always have to stress here, we're not giving financial advice here, but in general principles, if you look at sort of priorities of people who want to make preparedness against existential threats to their family, their well-being, that sort of thing, what is your priority order that you put, Bill, and where in that order do you think, if somebody's already got their home and car paid off and that sort of thing, where they should put precious metals in their priority list, and what kind of quantity they should be scaling it in terms of what ways of thinking about that?
Well, I'm prejudiced, and there's a couple of things to bring in here. First of all, almost everyone, not everyone, but many in the mainstream world will suggest that people get at least 5% of what they have in the gold or silver markets. The more aggressive ones put 10%, naturally, I'm prejudiced and think it should be more, especially now because other assets have taken off. Look what our stock market has done. The S&P is near an all-time high. Art, the cryptocurrencies, real estate, and gold and silver, and in dollar terms now, they're nothing. And silver is less than nothing. I mean, so I think, the more when people should put as much as they can that they're comfortable with because of what's coming. And that's a number, again, the comfort word is key. And, I would think more like 20% or 25%. But again, I'm very prejudiced.
Back to that first part of the question about other priorities outside of precious metals, what's your thinking on other priorities people should be taking in making preparations for?
Well, you got to what happened if we have a bunch of chaos again in terms of interest rates, in terms of the stock market. I've never been either way bullish or bearish on the stock market. There's a lot of guys in our camp that are very smart. They've been wrong. They keep saying it's going to come down, and boy, it could crash. And of course, that would aid the fear trade in gold. But I try to stick with gold and silver, and it's been a tough the past many years, hanging in there with it. But, that's what I'm comfortable with. And the rest of it, these markets could go either way. At some point, it appears now what they're going to have to do again is more quantitative easing all over the world. Mario Draghi from Europe talked about it today. It's going to kick in. They're going to have to, metal to the pedal, print money. And they've been able to stop gold in the past doing that. Now, if I'm right about the physical gold market, they're not going to be able to do it, and that's why this time will be different.
Can you help us understand a little bit to see it the way you see it about why you think things are different with the physical gold market? What leads you to that insight?
Well, we've heard about gold being tight in Europe now from colleagues for 2 years, and it hasn't meant a thing. It's just nothing. Then we've heard about the exchange for physical market, which is quite complicated. The basic thing is for a exchange for physical is simple. You have a futures contract, you want to take delivery, you go long, you get exchange for your physical long. Getting into what's going on in the COMEX is completely complicated. If somebody wants to get confused, go to the CME and give an explanation for exchange for physicals, or look what they've written it up in their written material. I mean, it's like Swahili. But I think they're finally hitting the wall with the physical market. And then it's coming at a time when you're hearing all these things about interest rates going to below zero. Bund yields, Japanese yields, New Zealand yields. And you're hearing about things are so great in the United States, but the yield of the 10-year bond note went down to 2.06%, 2.03% today.
Right.
Why in heck are they tanking if everything is so good? It doesn't make any sense. And you may be a Trump fan or not, but he's saying this how great it is. And then the stock market's doing this, and every time the stock market starts to tank, the plunge protection team, which they came back in again, and it's gone straight up. Something's not right out there. And this is where we talked about a black swan or a Deutsche Bank, or all these things are kind of hitting at once. And they're visible things, not just me making them up. I mean, people can see what's being said and what happening with the numbers. So that's why I think we're getting close. You time that with the way gold has taken off. I mean, they bashed it on last Friday for no reason. and still, and then he didn't able to follow through on Friday. And today they were the same price again, up at the 13.55, above that key 13.50, smashed it again. It just seems that they're more desperate now than they've ever been, and that's why they are going berserk with silver, because now they have some real trouble with gold.
So is it when we asked you for what gives you that confidence that there's something changing in the physical gold supply balance, you're looking at this price action as one of the things that's leading you to that conclusion?
Pretty much. I mean, because that's the name of the game. Everything depends upon what the gold cartel can get away with. And gold has not traded lately like it has. Like the buyers are waiting for them to attack. And once they attack like today, it came back, $8 off its low. Well, it made a new high close in the move for the COMEX. It's trading differently. Now, does that mean they're gonna not get away with smashing again? This is the rich and powerful. I mean, it depends upon the status of that physical market I'm talking about. If it's that tight, they shouldn't be able to get away with it for too long, which they haven't been able to do. So we'll see. If you ever get a breakout of this base, watch out.
Bill, we've been pretty much focusing on viewer questions, but I really didn't give you a chance to talk to us about what your latest focus of your research is there, or any of the trends and the phenomena that you're researching right now. Anything else that you are keeping your eye on that I haven't asked you about?
Chris, Powell, my colleague, Secretary Treasurer of GATA, does a great job, and he stays more on top of the specific issues, and we're trying to get some support for what's going on behind the scenes, and he's got a lot of letters out to people and conversations, and we're doing the best we can to get the issue in front of people. I think we've got a big help lately from Frank Holmes, who's very well known, and he got involved with Chris around what's going on in the BIS, because Frank can see what they're doing there in terms of gold swaps and gold leases and so on. We've been on this a long, long time, and we continue to fight the good fight. And in my opinion, we can get a certain amount to certain first base, maybe in this here, there, but when it's really going to become a big deal is when it blows up and the gold price goes nuts, and if there's havoc in the U.S. in terms of what's going on in the economy and financial markets, everyone's going to say, how could this have happened? What happened? And GATA has a 20-year story to tell them that Chris has it well documented, and I have too, but not as well as Chris. And it'll be a big deal because it'll be like the other scandals, the Bernie Madoff. People say, how could this have happened? Well, it happened, and J.P. Morgan let it happen. A good correlation there. And, the same with Enron. It was, Fortune 500 Company of the Year 5 years in a row. It was a big fraud. It's just like the gold-silver scandal. It is a complete crime. And someday, hopefully, they're going to be able to do something about it. Unfortunately, it's difficult because the government's behind it.
That's what I was going to ask you next was, are there any actions that you would recommend? I mean, you guys are leading the charge, and you have been for a long time, kind of like Don Quixote, as a vigilante for the truth and for lawful markets and that sort of thing. Is there anything you would make a call out to? Here you've got 37,000 subscribers of ours listening to you. Is there anything you want the common person to do, the common man or woman, to take action on the behalf of what is right and what is true markets here?
Well, the one thing I would ask, probably, there are lawsuits right now, and there's many of our people that are involved in it, when they're taking years and years, and it's very, very frustrating. I would say the most important thing is to bring this interview to the attention of the mainstream financial press, or people just in the gold, silver world in the press, and ask them about this. Ask them to explain what's going on here, and why don't they ever talk about it? And it's so obvious. That's the other reason, getting back to your other question about why I think it's getting closer. They are getting so obvious with what they're doing. It's ridiculous. And I've made specifically today and Friday, and what they're have done in the silver market for a long time now. And ask these people in the press to go ask the people in the industry, what are you doing about it? What do you think about it? And that could be of help. And because as shareholders, if they're shareholders, it's hurting a lot of the companies, although there are some companies that are near at all-time highs right now. If they're, mining gold in other countries, it's the U.S. Countries that are really getting hurt. So there are things that can be done, and we'd like to spearhead that effort. We'll continue to do what we can to expose this thing, because it's going to be a big deal. And that's exactly what the rich and powerful don't want to hear about. They don't want the press to talk about. Because once it breaks, it's like these other scandals. It's the cat's out of the bag, and there's nothing they can do. So they're trying to keep the cat in the bag.
Well, Bill, we're always glad for your perspective and your years of experience and your insights here, and thank you for you and Chris Powell for doing the work that you do. We're talking with Bill Murphy. He's the co-founder of the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, visiting us here again on Reluctant Preppers. Bill, thanks as always.
DK, anytime. Love you.
Reluctant Preppers provides educational awareness and commentary only. Opinions expressed do not constitute personalized financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and seek qualified personal financial consultation before making investment decisions. Hey, Reluctant Preppers, if you haven't heard, we've already started our monthly 1-ounce U.S. Silver Eagle thank you gift to one active Patreon subscriber each month, signed by your host, Dunnigan Kaiser. And you don't want to miss out on that.
Please help us grow by subscribing today at patreon.com/reluctantpreppers.